Scientists just extracted DNA from the teeth of soldiers who died during Napoleon's 1812 retreat from Russia, and what they found changes our understanding of one of history's most catastrophic military campaigns. Now, I think it was Napoleon Bonaparte who famously said, "An army marches on its stomach," and in 1812, his Grande Armée learned that lesson the hard way, when roughly 300,000 soldiers out of an original force of 600,000 died during the disastrous retreat from Russia. Researchers from the Institut Pasteur in France published a study in Current Biology analyzing DNA from the teeth of 13 soldiers buried in a mass grave discovered in Vilnius, Lithuania in 2001, a site containing somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 bodies. And here's what's fascinating. Instead of finding typhus, which has long been blamed for the army's demise, they discovered two different pathogens, Salmonella enterica causing enteric fever and Borrelia recurrentis causing relapsing fever. Basically, we've been telling the wrong story for 200 years. But here's the thing, the technical execution here is genuinely impressive and represents how far ancient DNA analysis has come. The researchers used high-throughput sequencing, which can sequence millions of DNA fragments at a time and identify highly degraded DNA from samples over 200 years old. They extracted genetic material from dental pulp, the innermost part of the tooth containing dried blood, which acts as a pathogen reservoir because teeth are essentially biological time capsules that don't decompose. Then they removed all environmental contamination to isolate bacterial DNA, authenticated the results to prove these weren't modern contaminants, and matched them against pathogen databases. 4 of the 13 soldiers tested positive for Salmonella enterica, which causes enteric fever through contaminated food or water, and 2 tested positive for Borrelia recurrentis, spread by body lice. Well, here's where it gets more complex. A 2006 study on 35 different soldiers from the same cemetery detected typhus and trench fever, but this new study found different diseases entirely. And as lead researcher Nicolas Rascovan points out, they analyzed a very limited sample number, so we can't really know how widespread these pathogens were. To be fair, that's actually an important limitation. We're talking about 13 teeth out of potentially 3,000 bodies. The reality is, these findings don't discredit the earlier typhus research, they just add layers to what we already knew. Combined with previous work, it's become clear that these soldiers were under microbial assault on all fronts, multiple diseases circulating simultaneously through an army already dealing with starvation, exhaustion, and brutal winter conditions. As I mentioned earlier, this matters beyond just adding footnotes to history textbooks. Bioarchaeologist Michaela Binder notes that we have paintings of soldiers in shiny armor and Napoleon on his horse, but when we look at human remains, we see a completely different picture. Lifelong malnutrition, broken feet from marching, and bodies riddled with disease. What this study really demonstrates is how genomic technology can fact-check historical narratives and add resolution to events we thought we understood. Rascovan himself said it's impressive how much the technology has developed since 2006, allowing researchers to do things that were impossible to conceive just a few years ago. And here's the broader implication. We're living in an era where cutting-edge paleogenomics can reconstruct 2-century-old pandemics on the molecular level, revealing how environmental disasters, logistical failures, and disease outbreaks interact to create humanitarian catastrophes. The technology advances, our ability to understand the past improves, but the fundamental lesson remains unchanged. When you march hundreds of thousands of people into impossible conditions without adequate supplies or sanitation, the outcome is predictable and tragic. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.